Hey guys, want to talk about doing astrophotography, but without breaking the bank. And one of the first things that you're going to need, and where most people will tell you to spend all of your money, will be the mount. And I'm telling you, you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a mount. If you go look for a used, secondhand mount, such as what I'm going to show you, you can make things a lot more economical and have money left over for some of the other pieces. Stick around. So when I first started getting into astrophotography, one of the things that I found is everyone was talking about spend your money on the mount. Don't worry about the telescope or the camera or whatever it might be. Spend the money on the mount. And I looked, and everyone was talking about EQ6R Pros and more recently now the AM5. And you're talking of multiple thousands of dollars. That was just out of the budget. And at least, to find out, is this something I really want to do and I want to get into? There must be a better way. And I found mounts that are, used, pre-owned, and I found a real good one. I think a lot of people have used this in the past, and those are the Celestron CG-5s. And in particular, the one I've got is the Advanced GT. Let me show you what I got. So here's the mount. Let me get up and close to it. First off, go over here. You'll see that it's a Celestron Advanced GT. Motorized mount. You've got 3 ports, actually, well, technically 4 for the power. You've got guide port, which if you're using something like an ASIA or Nina, you don't need to use. You got the deck port, which is this cable here, and then you got the hand controller. So the 2 parts of the mount here are the RA down below here, and up here is the deck. So they connect to each other through a cable, so there's not internal wiring that connects them. So you can see right there, deck port, and then the wire itself connects into here. So this just rotates around as the mount rotates. The hand controller is where you actually would connect something like a Nina or an ASIA. And you do that, it's down here at the bottom. Let's lift this up. Hopefully you can feel that's coming through. But it's just like a smaller Cat5 connection. So I think it's just 4 wires, and it's just a serial connection. And so that comes out into a 9-pin connector. And then I've got this 9-pin serial adapter to USB, which then goes over to my ASIA right there. And that's how to connect the mount. But things I will note, the tripod itself is very sturdy. No complaints there. It's actually got extension legs here. You can loosen this and then tighten it down to make it probably twice as high as it is now. This thing will handle, I believe it's, 33 pounds? So it'll handle, my beginner scope I have on here, just no problem at all. I'll do a video on this coming soon, might even be the next one, of why this is a great scope to get started with. Again, keeping it within budget. It might handle a C8, an old C8, which I have, and it has been on here, but I've had some issues with the scope, so I'm not confident. It's, that definitely would be pushing it, but something like this, a nice 4-inch refractor, no problem. So quirks, it's got these plastic covers. In fact, if you go zoom in here, you can see that this one was a bit of a glue job that I did. And in fact, it's being a bit dusty here. So I'm going to leave this out year round. It's just got some electrical tape holding this bottom together. And what happened was the locking nut for the right ascension was down too far. And as the scope, let me just unlock it here. As the scope rotated, that locking nut, let's lock it in there. If you can see, it caught this. This was sticking up, wasn't matched up properly. Caught it and then bent this thing around to the point where it snapped. So just be watchful of that. There's a little hole here. There's a little plastic. It's not even a screw. It's I don't even know how to describe them, but they're almost like rivets, plastic rivets in a way. And you may or may not find yours with one, because they do tend to fall out. The entire RA and, well, the main brains of everything is in here. It's inside this piece. And when I first got the scope, it would do some weird things. I'd send it to most stars to be no problem, but every once in a while, it would just go off into Never Never Land and keep rotating to a point where I had to be mindful of it and just catch it. Even if it was tracking, it would sometimes do that. Reason being is inside here is metal component, or the metal chassis of the actual mount, and there's a circuit board in here, kind of just sort of wedged in diagonally, and it wasn't seated properly, and it was shorting out on that metal. So if you do get one of these, be mindful of that. Just double check that. Make sure that there's a little piece of plastic that's sort of almost glued to the bottom of the circuit board. Maybe make sure that's there. And then there's these two little teeth, one here and one over on this side, on the inside, where it's supposed to fit into. But it's difficult when you're trying to squeeze these two parts together. This whole assembly, there's a screw here, there's a screw up here, and I think that's it. It's literally just sort of sandwiched onto the mount itself, holding it on there. That's a bit of a drawback. It's not exactly robust, so do treat it nicely. Same thing for the deck. This seems to handle things a bit better, but I did note that this was being pushed down because of the, I can't remember what it's called now, the wedge adapter, whatever. This was coming up a bit for some reason, so there was some wear there. Oh, I will say this one does have the polar scope installed in it. So there's one there. There's a cover usually on here. The one time the cover just slipped off in my house onto the tile, and sort of bounced around and snapped off side of it, so it doesn't really stay on there very well anymore. So I just leave it off. But I've got the polar scope in there, so nothing's getting inside. But yeah, be mindful of the cover. They're a bit brittle, so they can snap off. This nut here, you want that loose. If it's tight, that's locking your RA down. So make that sure that's loose. And sometimes what I'll do, so that things don't get snagged, is I'll just loop, get on there. I'll just sort of stick that on there so that this thing can, pivot all the way one way and all the way back the other way. And this isn't going to get hung up on this, try to go over like that way or like that kind of thing. It just keeps half of it for one side and the other. It works really well doing that. So yeah, it's great mount for the money. You could probably get this for under 500 Canadian these days, because the mount's from the 80s or 90s, I think. I need to double check that. I'll pop it up on screen here after I'm done filming. But yeah, it's not a brand new mount, but it's a tried and true mount. And like I said, it'll do the sub-arcsecond exposures that you need. And I usually do 30-second subs, but I have done 2 and 3 minutes. I have round stars, so yeah, I couldn't, would I want an EQ6R Pro or even better an AM5? Yeah, that'd be great, especially for the added payload capacity. But when you're just getting into it, you don't want to be blowing $5,000 at least on all this equipment. There's a way to get into it with, I think, probably under 1,000. I'll talk about the scope next, and that's even cheaper, and that was brand new. But things like the ASI Air, those are nice. You don't have to. I do recommend them. There's a 1x2 tech, I think, as well, and then of course, just a mini PC running Nina is another great option as well. And then it just comes down to your camera. So a DSLR or dedicated Astro camera is a really good investment. And then you're almost to the point where, like I am, throw the cover on and pull it off when you need it, and you've got system set up, ready to go from the comfort and warmth of your own home, depending where you're at. The plane going over there again. I will say that most of them probably could use with a tune, just a re-greasing. I may do a video on that. I've done this one already, but yeah, I think maybe now that I've learned a few things, maybe I will do another re-greasing of it. and I'll take video and just be able to show you what to do there, because it does have some of that old Chinese gunk in there. Some of it's black, some of it's this really goopy yellow stuff, and it's that just makes the mount, the motors have to work harder to turn it and stuff like that. So getting in some stuff in there like some good super lube is a great idea. But yeah, with that, that's the video for today. I hope it was helpful. I hope this helps, maybe make the decision, because getting into this can be really daunting, especially when you talk about the price tag. And there's no reason why you need to go break the bank from the get-go. See if you like it. Get yourself a used Celestron CG-5 mount, with motorized go-to like the Advanced GT I have right back there. Right. Any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'll catch you next time.